DotPad is set to do a 1000x, just the way MetaVPad did a 1000x. But today we're going to cover the good, the bad, and the ugly, because this is a high probability strategy, but also very high risk. And I'm going to share the secrets that no one else tells you in today's video. So if you like today's content, like, subscribe, hit the bell notification. If you don't know me by now, my name is Jagir. I'm the award-winning author of The Extraordinary New Venture Capital Opportunity, How to Invest Like a Pro. Been featured in the best-selling book, High Probability Trading Strategies, back in 2008, where I only used to focus on currencies, but now exclusive on cryptocurrency. So let's dive straight in. We got a jam-packed session today. So this is really in-depth, really in-depth. So DotPad is about DotPad, but the higher level thinking as well. So DotPad is going to be one of the major launch pads for the Dot ecosystem, the Polkadot ecosystem. You know, we're talking about Moonbeam, we're talking about Kusama, we're talking about Substrate. All that development that's happening is a lot of hype. But will it hit 1000x? Is it impossible or is it possible? Well, we're going to look at what is highly probable based on literally facts. But we also need to understand the risk, because this is not for the faint-hearted. You need thick skin, because it is a bit of a roller coaster over the weeks and months to come. And we haven't even got the announcement date, which has pros and cons in itself. So what we're going to look at, right? I do a few different strategies. And what I always look at is when I'm teaching, especially when I'm teaching, if I just move myself out the way up here, is I'm always looking at risk, time, market conditions, and the stress level and the skill required. And some of the strategies that I teach is Elliott Wave and Fibonacci. So you're familiar with chart patterns and how to read the market, the psychology. We've got IDOs, and then a combination of the two, where there's low caps, where projects have launched already, but they're very, very undervalued. But each have pros and cons when it comes to risk, time, market conditions, and just the stress levels. So when it comes to trading, it's medium to high risk, you know, if you know what you're doing. When it comes to IDOs, launch pads, it's high risk. And low caps can be very high risk, because the market is a lot of movements. We're getting in really, really early where there's more uncertainty in the market. Time required. Well, all of these require a lot of time, you know, in different formats, but they require a lot of time, and you want to be aware of that. Market conditions. Well, with trading, you can make money on when the market's going up, and you can make money on the way down. IDOs only are really relevant when it's a bull market, when we anticipate the market to go up. If you do not anticipate the market to go up, then IDOs is an absolute no-no, because they just won't give you those returns. And then low caps, again, only bull conditions. But stress, life conditions, right? High, and very high. This is not for the faint-hearted. And I'm telling you that up front, because I've realized a lot of people think it's a certain thing, but then it ends up being something different. That's one of the reasons why when I'm doing IDOs, this is what we're going to cover today, the high risk, a lot of time, market conditions, and a very high stress level. So, you know, if you don't want more gray hairs, I got a few gray hairs. I like to think it's wisdom, but there you go. When I teach my courses, I have a bonus course which has low risk, low time, all market conditions, and low amount of stress. And if you take my Elliott Wave and Fibonacci Masterclass and the IDO Masterclass, it's in the link below, and you buy one of my courses, you'll get an invite to my private Telegram. We do weekend workshops, and you'll get access to my bonus course, which really acts as a hedge. I think of it as a second parachute, but for many it becomes the main dessert as a main course, because we only do probabilities and never certainties. So another thing, when you're thinking about IDOs, when I'm thinking about IDOs, I'm looking at Bitcoin as a macro indicator, and do we believe we're going to see a six-figure Bitcoin? So when I'm reading the markets and I'm using Elliott and Fibonacci, I believe there's a high probability that over the coming months, 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, in 2022, we are likely, but not guaranteed, likely to hit a six-figure Bitcoin. Now, when the market conditions like 2017, if you remember the ICO market, if you was a part of the ICO market, initial coin offerings, IDOs is now an advancement of ICOs, initial DEX offerings. That 2017 market was just insane. And there was a period of time where it was just, everything was just exploding. Very, very important. And then we had this build up, you know, 2019 to 2020, early 2021. We had these really bullish conditions where Bitcoin went from like $3,000-$4,000 to like $64,000. In those market conditions, low caps and IDOs perform incredibly well. And now this is the anticipation that I have, is to go, are we going to see a six-figure Bitcoin? Are we going to see that money pour in to cryptocurrency and take it from a $2 trillion market cap to a $7 trillion, $10 trillion market cap, where a lot of these low caps will become medium to large caps? That's what we're thinking about. That's how I'm thinking about the market. If you do not believe or don't think Bitcoin is going to hit six figures, then IDOs is a no-no. You know, with me, IDOs is only relevant if we think we're going to have this massive surge like we had in 2017 and like we had in 2019 to 2020 as well. Quick caveat, US citizens, you have to pass KYC for most of the launch pads, and you won't pass KYC because of the US law. So just know, what we're going to cover with DotPad, you won't be able to pass KYC, but you can trade the token. But as far as I'm aware, you won't be able to participate just because of the way US law is set up. So ideal steps and market conditions, this is what we want to look at, right? First of all, when you're buying your Launchpad membership to maximize your yield, your return, is ideally you want to buy the Launchpad membership during a depression phase of the market where there's lots of FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Why? Because it depresses the price and it means a lot of projects become undervalued. Really, really important. Now, it doesn't feel right to buy because of the fear, uncertainty, and doubt, but sometimes it's the best time to buy the Launchpad, not to participate in the IDO, but to buy the Launchpad when it's a depressive state of the market, right? And that's kind of what we're in right now. You'll feel it yourself if you've been participating in IDOs, but if you haven't, it doesn't feel right. But that's where you want to have the vision of what's likely to occur in the coming weeks and months, right? So that's important to understand. 2, buy the Launchpad membership ideally before big announcements, before exact launch dates, before the hype and before the marketing. Because once the marketing becomes apparent, naturally the demand for the token, marketing is basically sales, right? And it drives the demand for the token. And nearer the main events, the demand tends to be higher. When it's a depressive state where people are really, really uncertain, that's the time where you can get really undervalued launch pads. We're going to talk about that today. And then strategically, there's no right or wrong. You have to just go with the information that you have. Strategically pick which pad is likely to give you the largest allocation for the lowest cost in terms of how much you're going to pay for your top tier membership, medium tier membership, or third tier membership, and which one's going to give you based on the information available, because there's no guarantees, there's moving parts, but we have to just make a judgment call based on what we know and what we can see. But I'm going to caveat this, right? If you're brand new to crypto, IDO is probably not the right strategy for you. If you're not used to investing, it's probably not the right strategy for you because it's very high risk. It's not low risk, not medium risk. It's high risk, meaning the launchpad prices, they move. They really move. And we're going to look at that today. And then the IDOs themselves, they really move. We're talking about 100x's to 1,000x's that then go through 50 to 70 to 90% corrections and then go through this. This is because they're young and they're more emotional, and it will express itself in that price action. And if you're not comfortable with that high risk, do not do launch pads, I'm telling you, because you won't sleep at night. But if you're well conditioned and well versed and you're willing to go through the learning curve, then it's worth considering. All right, so with DotPad, we've got 10 IDO platforms that are going to be launching DotPad. So according to their Telegram, is launching on BSC Pad, Tron Pad, KCC Pad, GameZone, NFT Launch, Valus Pad, Post Pad, Meta V Pad, AdaPad, and the ETH Pad, all part of the Bluezilla ecosystem. Whether you love the Bluezilla ecosystem or you hate the Bluezilla ecosystem, if you want to be a part of DotPad, this is the only place in town where it's launching, as far as I'm aware. But it's like if you're buying launch pads for the first time or you're looking to buy a second membership, it's like, which one do I buy? Like, there's 10. Do I just randomly pick? Do I just go with what I feel? Or can we do some analysis? Okay, well, today we're going to do some analysis. So we're just going to look at some facts and some figures. And again, the focus is on DotPad. Now, when you are buying a Launchpad membership, you're either going to be focused on one like DotPad, because more than likely going to be a big one because of the Polkadot ecosystem, Kusama, Moonbeam. It's a very, very big deal for cross-chain interoperability. It's going to be a very, very big deal. But then you want to see what others are going to come potentially before DotPad and then in the months after DotPad as well. So you want to factor that in also as well. But we're going to focus on DotPad, how you can get maximum allocation, the maximum value. So let's use a case study, right? So AdaPad launched not that long ago, September 9th, 2021. And it launched on the 4 Launchpad, ETHPad, KCC Pad, Tron Pad, and BSC Pad. And at the time, it was the same thing. A lot of people wanted to get AdaPad membership allocation, but it's like, do I get BSC Pad to get it? Do I get Tron Pad, KCC Pad, or ETH Pad? So we're just going to cover a few things because AdaPad itself did 360x. But when you're looking at these maximum all-time high points that I hit, we need to take something into consideration and a reality check, which is not clear. It's not clear. This is the chart of AdaPad as of this morning. Like, we had this amazing spike. If I just bring up this annotation so I can show you, I'll draw it like this. we had this amazing spike over, these are, every bar represents a day, and this peak here was 360, and then we had this correction, and then it's just been going sideways to down. Cardano really is not ready to be launching loads of projects yet, and it's been going down, 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 down. That's the reality check. That's why it's high risk, because even when you get in, you're looking to exit some here, or you're looking to hold and use AdaPad as the launch pad itself. So you have to make some decisions. So it's really, really important to note that this was 360x. But when I'm teaching my students, I go, look, ignore the hype. The real numbers really is this part here, because this is where you realistically were able to, if you were going to sell 10%. And keep in mind, when you get your allocation for AdaPad, you would have got 10% allocation on the token generation event. And that's pretty typical. And then it's a month wait, and then you get your tokens over a 5 to 6 month period. That's just the nature of the game. And you want to be very, very aware of that. But this box, which I've drawn, is 100 to 250x. So I would ignore, not ignore, but just be aware. Just be aware that very few people would have sold at 360x. It's like this little peak. This is more realistic. But what's in this box, you can see is ranging in this box, and you would have had plenty of opportunity to take advantage of a 250x to 150x. That's just the reality of the game, just so you're very, very aware. Also, I want to keep in mind that what was happening with Bitcoin during the time, because with AdaPad in particular, it launched, and again, I want to show you this because this is not often intuitive. It launched over here, September 9th. That's what it was doing. So we had a few weeks of up to November. It was like a couple of months up. And then we've had months and months and months of sideways to down, 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 which is fair. So naturally, especially low caps, because AdaPad is regarded as a low cap, just because it's new, right? It's new, it's young. It's not a reflection of the project. It's going down, down, down. So you want to be aware of that and go in with your eyes open. So if you're doing the launchpad strategy, again, it's not for the faint-hearted. You do need a bit of thick skin. So this is what's been going on, down, 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 right? So now we're looking at the AdaPad example again, and now we just look at the numbers, because remember what I said, the 3 steps. We want to ideally buy the membership before the hype, before the marketing. So 3 weeks, because I was doing this strategy. I was teaching people this strategy. People did incredibly well. I'm talking making over 6 figures in this, and I was coaching people and individuals, one-on-ones, group sessions, etc. And the key and the secret was to buy before the hype. Now, if you buy in the midst of the hype, the fear of missing out hype, and it's panic buying, look, you can still do well. But and I've also bought pads in those conditions because you want to maximize certain things. But you just have to understand the game that you're playing. I call it crypto tennis, the sport of crypto tennis. And there's winners and there's losers. It's a zero-sum game, and there's a lot of moving parts. And sometimes it's hard to see that there's a lot of moving parts. So that's what we're going to cover today. So what we're going to do here is the cost of the memberships for AdaPad, the ETHPad, KCCPad, TrumpPad, and BSCPad. What were the cost of those memberships 3 weeks before the IDO and on the day itself? And you'll get a feel for how the market responds with fear and greed, supply and demand. You know, that's the impetus that you want to have that edge in your favor. So all of a sudden, you'll see ETHPad on the 19th of August, 3 weeks before the AdaPad IDO, was 16,000. And on the day of the IDO, the top tier membership was $28,000. That was the cost. So it's not cheap, but it is half price 3 to 4 weeks before the IDO. KCCPad, I remember it so clearly because I was telling people, look, this price is not going to stay once the cat gets out of the bag. KCCPad was 4 cents, 4.5 cents, which equated to $9,000 for 200,000 tokens. Literally 3 weeks later, because I remember I was telling people to buy the KCCPad. I was saying, look, if you can get 3, like, you know, one for yourself, one for your partner, and one for whoever else, and leverage this because they don't stay low for long, especially when they're leading up to a major IDO. And AdaPad was a major IDO. It was one of the top performers of 2021, whether you love the ecosystem or you don't. But that was just the numbers, literally just the numbers. And it doesn't stay there for long. TrumpPad, I did a video on TrumpPad in August. I remember doing the video, and it was 0.028 thereabouts. And it didn't stay there for long. And a few weeks later, it was just popping off, and it went over to 100K. But 3 weeks just before the AdaPad, it was 33K. So 14K to 33K. So hopefully these numbers are making sense. BSCPad, they tend to have some of the lowest allocations per IDO, but you get the most amount of IDOs because it's like the grandfather of that ecosystem, and it just gets allocation to pretty much everything. But on the day of AdaPad, it was $135,000, right? I was like, geez, look at that difference. Look at that difference. But what we want to really take into account to get the full picture into account, how much allocation did each launchpad give, right? So have a guess, right? So if BSE pad is the most expensive 3 weeks before. So if you look at it like this, right, intuitive, like if you kind of go, well, makes sense. This is the most expensive, and then it's definitely the most expensive. So it should be the highest, right? It should be the highest. So you should go, oh, guess that one. And we go, well, the second, well, it must be ETH pad, and then this one, okay, well, and then Trump pad became the highest, so it must be these and these. Well, and this one's obviously the lowest cost, so this must give you the lowest allocation, right? But that's not always the case because mathematically, it's all about how many stakers there are, how many members and participation there are. There's a few moving parts. So, and I noticed this because I looked at, KCCPAD hadn't done many IDOs, and it was it's not a popular chain, the KCC blockchain. It's not a popular chain. So I knew that it's likely it was going to get good allocation, especially for the cost. So ETHPAD for the IDO top tier, without first come first serve, got $184 allocation in AdaPad, right? KCPad got $271, TronPad got $194, and BSC pad got $191. So who's the winner? You go, wait a minute, what'd you get? What? That makes no sense. The cheapest membership for AdaPad, $9,000, got the highest allocation. How's that? I go, look, there's moving parts, supply and demand. It's not just as simple as, whatever is most expensive, what is most popular. It's also supply and demand. Well, also keep in mind, EPAD and TronPad and BSEPad have had more IDOs than KCPad. So for AdaPad, it was the best performer, but then overall, it might not be because there's other IDOs that are happening afterwards. And BSEPad would obviously have the highest volume. ETHPad would, I think, then had the second highest volume, TronPad third, and KCCPad fourth. So you have to take that into consideration. But if we're just focusing on AdaPad in this example, we go, and I go by far, if you managed to get in 3 weeks before and got your membership secured before the marketing, because a few weeks afterwards, the marketing began, the hard date was given, and then all of a sudden the demand for the token just went up and up and up, and the prices just went, literally what you're paying for top tier, you can now only get the bottom tier for. So you can kind of see what I'm trying to get across. That is a very fast moving market. There's a lot of movements to the pieces of the puzzle, and you need to take that into consideration. Again, it's not for the faint hearted. I'm telling you, if you're not comfortable with taking 50, 60, 70, 80% drawdowns at different phases of the market, then it's not for you. If you are comfortable with it, knowing that there's a probability of it doing incredibly well, then the market contracts and then it expands again and it contracts. These Elliott waves and Fibonacci. And if you want to read the markets like a pro and know more about it, take my free Elliott wave and Fibonacci masterclass. Is in the link below because it will give you a good flavor of where you should be taking profits and where you just should be hodling and knowing natural corrections. But it's just a bit more extreme with low caps. That's really, really important. So now let's look at today. Today, as of this morning, I just quickly run through it for your benefit to go, what's the cost of the top tier memberships as of this morning? And they are, because we're in a depressive state where the market is literally depressed, like it's depressed, there's fear, there's uncertainties, there's doubt, there's pessimism, there's a lot of FUD, and then people are spreading the FUD. I even see it in my own community and I'm feeling the emotion. So right now, everything is undervalued, and rightly so, because there's the minimum IDOs, and the IDOs that are launching are doing okay. They're not doing brilliant. They're doing okay. So therefore, that's reflected in the price. So that's the market price right now. So BSE pad right now, top tier membership, as of this morning, it might be different by the time you're looking at it, but as of this morning, it's $50,000. Trump pad 16, KCC pad 10,000, Game Zone 16,000, NFT launch 7,500. Valas pad 18,000, Post pad 7,300, Meta V pad 11,200, Ada pad 11,000, and ETH pad 14,000. So you go, okay, Jagir, so you might be thinking, all right, I think DotPad, Polkadot ecosystem, DotPad is going to do incredibly well. I want to buy a pad, I want to buy a second pad, I want to buy a third pad. Which one should I go for? Should I just go for the most expensive? Should I just go for the cheapest? Which one? So again, let's take a case study into account. Let's look at Verve. Verve was a project that was launched not that long ago. And it was launched on Game Zone, NFT launch, Postpad, Valaspad, and Meta VPad. So this will now give us a flavor of how much allocation did the top tiers get. And you can actually calculate what the middle tiers would have got and the bottom tiers would have got. You can do the math because it shows you your weighting pools and you divide it by that number and multiply it by the weighting pool of the other one. So you can work it out. But I'm just going by top tier just to give us indicative feel for what's going to give you the most value for your money if you're doing this high risk strategy. High risk, right? So, if you buy now, it doesn't mean it's gonna go. It will do this naturally. It's just it's just normal and it's buying and selling behavior. So Game Zone got the highest, 103, because they launched the new top tier, which requires 125,000 tokens. NFT Launch got the lowest. Postpad got 85, ValusPad got 91, and Meta VPad. So the way I look at this is pretty much when I look at this, in my mind, I go, okay, give or take almost these, and not that far off this as well. Got really roughly the same amount, but more so the ones on the right. And this one clearly got the lowest amount. So then the question is, and I'll ask you this question in your mind, you can pause it here for a second. Which one of these in your mind is the winner? And if it was the same ratio, and it is an if, because there's certain information that we just don't have here. So we have to kind of fill in some of the gaps and make some judgment calls. But based on the DotPad, which one is going to be the best value in terms of the amount of money you spend and the allocation that you get? So if you look at all of these, is it BSC pad, Tron pad, KC pad, Game Zone, NFT Launch, ValusPad, Postpad, Meta VPad, AdaPad, and ETHPad? Which one would you be your pick, looking at the information that you have at hand? And these currently are the cost, just so we're clear, these are the cost of the current memberships as of this morning for top tier. For top tier, there's a middle tier, lower tier. Some have a fourth and a fifth tier as well. Which one is your pick? All right, so my pick, and I'm literally loading up on these. I like, bought some extra ones. I was like, okay, let's get one for this family member, that family member, and get them going, because I think they're going to get an amazing allocation, close to the top allocation out of all the pads, but for the cost of it. So have you chosen? All right, so my top pick, based on the information at hand, is, drum roll please, if I had a drum roll I would do it, but it is, let's see if it comes up, let's go, bang, it is Postpad. Postpad is the winner for me. I can't believe how cheap it is right now, but it's a depressive state of the market. Everything is undervalued right now. There's, that when Bitcoin, which is like the king, the category king of the whole crypto markets in terms of market cap, when it moves, everything moves more extremely in that same direction. And it's been moving down overall since November. And we anticipated that, but it's already pushed everything down. So if you told me 6 months ago, 5 months ago, that you will see these prices, I go, unlikely, but it is what it is. So my top pick is Postpad. But again, this whole strategy, it takes a few things. You have to take a few other things into account. It's not just the DotPad. How many other IDOs are going to be around it as well? Long term, medium term. Do you believe we're going to see a six-figure Bitcoin? If yes, then the strategy makes a lot of sense. If no, and you get it right, as in you say no, I think it's just going to continue going sideways to down for like 2-3 years, then it doesn't make sense. You have to kind of take those things into account. So there you have it. I think that was the last slide. Yes, there we go. Bang. All right, so let me know what you think. Which one are you going to pick? What's your pick? Even if you're not, put it in the comments below. I think it's going to be this one, that one, or this one. Is it stay away? Because a lot of you, I know there's a lot of FUD out there, which is like stay away from this ecosystem. I don't like it. Or others are like, I love it. It depends on when you bought, because I bought some of the pads near its all-time high for some of the other allocations like Meta VPad, and now it's down 70, 80, 90%. I've got others at IDO price and everything else. So there's a big moving piece. It's not a simple strategy at all. So like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, take my free Launchpad and IDO Masterclass, which breaks down this high-level thinking. I've got a full course. It's more if you want to just know how to set up, because it's not that intuitive if you're doing it for the first time. US citizens, remember, you won't pass KYC just for launchpads that require KYC. It's just US law. So just know that, but you can trade the token. And those that do end up buying my Launchpad course, or even my Elliott Wave Fibonacci course, you'll get an invite to my private Telegram with the weekend workshops. We've got one today. Today's Saturday, so we've got one today. We've got some powerhouse stuff that I want to cover with my team. Actually, there's a lot of this content, but some other stuff I want to share with them as well that I just need a bit more time to kind of do a bit more of a Q&A. And you'll get the bonus. There's a phenomenal bonus that I have, but I only teach it to my students because it just takes a bit more thinking, and we do live workshops for those strategies as well. So like, subscribe, hit the bell notification. Let me know what you think. Is it going to do 1,000x? Hey, we don't know. We can only do probabilities and never certainties, but because it's Polkadot, Substrate, Moonbeam, Kusama ecosystem, it's partnered with Master Ventures, the Polkadot fund. I go, okay, there's a lot of things pointing. If Bitcoin flips and it starts really showing optimism, and then the marketing, and then we can compare it to the performance of AdaPad did a 360x at its all-time high. Meta VPad did a 1200x in bearish market conditions. So I go, looks like a high probability setup for DotPad, doesn't mean you should do it, because it is a high risk strategy with many moving parts. Oh, quote of the day. Nearly forget. How can I forget my quote of the day? Quote of the day, chapter 4. Benjamin Franklin. He or she who is good for making excuses is seldom good for anything else. He or she who is good for making excuses is seldom good for anything else. Now, look, this is life, right? Life and money is an emotional subject. Crypto is an emotional subject, especially when it's very, very volatile. So it's natural to feel the emotions of fear and greed at different points. Euphoria and practically depression at different phases of the market. However, I found in my life, even if someone else is to blame, even if I can justify and go, look, it's not my fault, it was that, or it was that person, or it was over there, I can't often do anything about that person. But what I can do is do something about me. So I do my best to always look in the mirror to go, what could you have done better? What could you have changed? Could you have done a better risk strategy? Could you have been risk free at a certain point? Did you get too aggressive, or did you do it perfectly? Or what was good, what was bad, and what was ugly? What was really, really well, and what can we get more constructive about to make sure we do it better in the future? So, mindful of, expressing your emotions. That's fine. We're humans after all. We're emotional beings. But when we're pointing the finger, just know that we can't do nothing about it. The market forces, there's millions of players, thousands and millions of players in the market. Everyone has their own agenda. Everyone, it's a zero-sum game. It's crypto tennis. There's winners and there's losers, and everyone's trying to win. And not everyone can win. It's impossible, like at different phases of the market. So you just have to get the edge in your favor and then look in the mirror to say, how can I get better? What can I do better? Can I do Elliott Wave and Fibonacci so I can read the market? So when I'm seeing a wave 5 high, bang. When I'm seeing this overhyped and it's overvalued, look, I'm not going to buy it over there. Even if I miss this particular IDO, I'm going to let it calm down, because I know there's a phase where people take profits. It's natural and it's healthy, but you want to get the edge in your favor so you can win this game of crypto tennis. All right, see you soon. Like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and keep training hard.